Good morning to all. I'm Latika Ashok. Today we will do the poem, the Brook, a poem from grade 8. So it's a beautiful poem in which it is in a ballad form, and it is a poem in which the brook itself seems to speak about its journey from the starting point till it reaches and joins the main river. So we will just take a look at the poem. We will read the poem, and as we read, I will explain the poem. The Brook by Alfred Lord Tennyson. So I will just give you an introduction about the poet. Alfred Lord Tennyson is one of the most well-regarded Victorian poets. So you have romantic poets, Victorian poets. It was the time why he is called Victorian poet. He's one among the many poets who wrote during the rule of Queen Victoria. So all those poets are called as Victorian poets. Tennyson, the fourth of 12 children, showed an early talent for writing. At the age of 12, he wrote a 6,000-line epic poem. His father, the Reverend George Tennyson, tutored his sons in classical and modern languages. Tennyson left home in 1827 to attend Trinity College, Cambridge. In that same year, he and his brother, Charles, published Poems by Two Brothers. Although the poems in the book were mostly juvenile, they attracted the attention of the Apostles, an undergraduate literary club led by Arthur Hallam. Arthur Hallam is also another poet of those times. Hallam's sudden death in 1833 greatly affected the young poet. The long elegy, In Memoriam, and many of Tennyson's other poems are tributes to Hallam. So he was very close, Tennyson was very close to Arthur Hallam. When he passed away, he wrote long elegies in remembrance of his friendship and of the person that Hallam was. He wrote in memory of his friend a big poem. So another quality of Tennyson's poems are that he writes in very simple words and with a lot of pictures. You can picturize the scenes that he is describing in his poem. And it is very simple and mostly related to nature. So we will just go through the poem. So the whole poem is in a ballad form. It sounds very much like a song, even you can sing to it, with a lot of rhythm, rhyme, and words which have a lot of sound images. So as we go, I will explain to you the lines of the poem. I come from haunts of coot and hern. I make a sudden sally and sparkle out among the fern to bicker down a valley. So it is telling you the origin of the brook. The brook means a stream, a small stream which is starting from somewhere inside the jungle forest, deep forests, and where you can find birds like coot and hern are names of small birds which you can find in these forests. I make a sudden sally and sparkle out among the fern to bicker down a valley. This is how you see, I'm sure many of you all have seen these streams, how they come in between. There will be a lot of greenery or growth trees, and in between these small strips of water will be flowing. So you will have ferns and big trees also, and it comes sliding down these mountains and valleys. Okay. By 30 hills I hurry down or slip between the ridges. By 20 tops a little town and half 100 bridges. So it is trying to tell you that so many hills it passes before it reaches the final river. It's just giving you a few numbers to show how much of distance he has to cover before he reaches or before the brook reaches the river. Or slip between the ridges by 20 tops a little town and half 100 ridges. So the different things it has to pass. Okay, he's telling you it has to pass through ridges, tops, villages, town, and flows through so many bridges. Till last by Philip's farm I flow to join the brimming river. For men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. So this is a refrain. Refrain, what it is, it's a figure of speech used in poems. And what I mean by refrain is the repetition. There are lines in the poem which are repeated, and this is one line that is going to be repeated 4 to 3 times in the same poem. It is, and the main purpose of using refrains is to emphasize the point that men are mortal beings, whereas the river or anything in nature is immortal. Okay, so that is the main theme of this poem. It is trying to show you how temporary the life of man is, whereas nature will go on and on. So I will also show you a PPT. So this was the summary of that first stanza. The speaker of the poem, the Brook itself, explains that it started from the place where birds called coot and heron often gather. Suddenly the brook rushes forward. I make a sudden sally, that is, suddenly it is coming out from some hills. And the sunlight glitters on the water as the brook weaves through the greenery that grows beside the stream bank. The brook then flows gently into a valley. So, and sparkle out among the furnace when it comes out and is reflected by the sunlight, you can see that it is sparkling. Most of you all must have seen, when light falls on water, there is a shine on top of it. So in the same way, the brook is also shining as it passes where the sun shines. By 30 hills I hurry down, or slip between the ridges. By 20 tops a little town and half 100 ridges. Gaining momentum, that is, as it must have seen when water comes down to the hills, it comes with a lot of force than when it is moving on a flat land. So when it is coming from a hill, it is hurrying down, that is, with a lot of force and speed it is coming down. A slip, the brook tumbles down many hills and seeps through narrow crevices on some of the hillsides. That is the ridges he is talking about. Small cuts in the sand. It passes through those areas also. It makes branches while flowing also on some of the hillside. So you can imagine while flowing down the hill, it doesn't come in one straight line. Even wherever it can get passage, it flows through those areas also and comes down and joins together to go to the river. Along the way, the brook passes several villages and a small town and flows underneath a lot of bridges. So, as it flows, it's just describing the things it is seeing on both sides. The brook itself is talking in the poem, so it is describing what are the things it is crossing as it passes to join the river. Through many villages, through towns, and even under the bridges. Finally, the brook glides past a farm that belongs to a man named Philip. So he is not giving much importance to that person as such. He's just giving you more importance to the farm owned by this man, Philip. The brook is on its way to be absorbed by the river, which is already huge and overflowing. So the word brimming with river. So another portion is going to be joined into this already overflowing river, which does not make it any difference, but still goes and joins to the river. The Brook claims that while humans live short, impermanent lives, the brook with itself will always endure. So this is the main theme of this poem, that man is eternal, mortal, is a mortal, and the river or nature is eternal. It will go on living forever. This is the next stanza. And note that it is a quatrain. The whole poem is written in quatrains, means four stanzas, four lines in each stanzas. I chatter over stony ways in little sharps and trebles. I bubble into eddying bays. I babble on the pebbles. So you can hear a lot of noise in this stanza. There are a lot of words which can give you sounds. Trebles, bubble, babble, all these are sound images which you can feel when you read that word. Picking its journey back up, the brook rushes over stone paths and streets, sounding like music as it flows over the rocks. So it is making some sound which is which is of a musical character, while even traveling over stones. As it hits onto the stone, it makes some splashing noises or chattering sounds. The brook pools into bays filled with churning water, and then tumbles over small stones that are along the shore or are at the bottom of the bay. So he's just giving you the different sounds that are made while traveling when it encounters pebbles or stones on its way. Okay, so the sound effects in the wave. With many a curve my banks I fret, but by many a field and fallow, and many a fairy foreland set with willow, weed and mallow. So again, the different other places that it is traveling. The brook curves around the stream bank and passes many meadows and plots of farmland, both in use and left to rest. By the word fallow, okay, they have used this field for growing crops in the past. Now it is kept for resting so that it can regain its nutrition, and the soil will become rich again. And it is also passing through fields which are currently planted with crops, both in use and left to rest as it travels through the countryside. This is when it is reaching the countryside, what are the things it is passing. It also flows alongside land that seems to belong to fairies. Its landscape dotted with green leafy plants and delicate blooms. So the next place after the countryside is land, maybe these meadows which look very beautiful, full of greenery. The grass looks like a big carpet, and in between you have little colorful flowers which you may think you are in heaven with fairies around. Such a beautiful place. So he's giving you a lot of imagery of the beauty of nature. Okay, he's awestruck, or he's so impressed by the beauty of nature, which he says even fairies may be living there, seeing the beauty of that land. And you can imagine the picture, landscape dotted with green leafy plants and delicate plants. The whole place is so full of greenery that it looks like as if it is covered with a carpet of green color. And in between these little flowers, I'm sure you can also imagine these little flowers blossoming in between these green plants. I chatter as I flow to join the brimming river. For men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. So again, it's the second time he's repeating the same line to stress on the point that how temporary the life of man is, whereas nature will go on forever. So again, I chatter, chatter, that sound as the stream is flowing. Even when we go to all these hill stations, your the lodge or the place where you're staying maybe a little higher, and from down you can hear the stream flowing, the chattering sounds as it is getting. As the speed increases, there is more sound. You can feel and hear the stream flowing. If there is a small stream at the bottom of that hill or something. Okay, so the same thing is explaining here. I chatter, chatter as I flow. So rushing along, the brook makes little trickling sound noises as it travels to the almost overflowing river. The brook reminds the listener that human life is fleeting, but the brook itself is eternal. I wind about and in and out, with here a blossom sailing, and here and there a lusty trout, and here and there a grayling. So the brook meanders through the countryside, zigzagging across the landscape. It points out a flower drifting along with its waters, a few particularly hearty trout, and some freshwater fish called graylings. So, in a way, it is also a comparison to our life. Okay, you can also take it as a metaphor to the life people live. Man, okay. So I wind about and in and out. It can, if you look at the critical analysis of this poem, and you can compare it to life. It's a metaphor to life where you're traveling through life, and on the way you have to pass life. The journey of life is not a straight and comfortable one, isn't it? So you have your ups and downs, the bends and curves. That it can stand for all the small troubles and problems that we have in life. So it is not a smooth and straight journey of life. So that is why in and out. So you come out of a problem, and again maybe you get into some other problem. You have some sad happenings, some unhappy event takes place. So all this is happening throughout your journey in life. With here a blossom sailing. So that blossom may be the little happy events you can take, or it can also mean, and here and there a lusty trout. So as you are traveling through life, you can meet many people who will give you happiness, or who will remain with you throughout the journey of life. Here and there a lusty trout, and here and there a grayling. So as you move through life, you take with you, along with you, to this journey, some friends of yours, some family members who come and who join you in the middle of life, or who are there with you from the beginning until the end. So these are maybe these fishes and flowers are standing for people in your life. So it's a comparison to how when we travel in life, the different people we meet, who may come throughout till the end, to the river, or till the end of your life, or halfway they will leave and go. Okay. So it is carrying with it, drifting along with its water. It points out a flower drifting along with its water. A few particularly hearty trout. This is a type of fish again, and some smaller fish called graylings. So different types of people can take it as that also. Okay. And here and there a foamy lake upon me as I travel, with many a silver watery break above the golden gravel. Occasionally the brook's water bubbles up and foams as it journeys towards the river. So when there is a little more force in between, when there is ups and downs, the brook is moving with a little more increased speed. So at that time, it starts bubbling up and makes lather-like foams. The surface of the brook sometimes forms little waves that crash melodically on top of the pebbles and sand below. So there is sand at the bottom. So it is, as it is flowing, when it hits against the sand and stones, it makes different types of sounds. Silvery water break is when there is a break, when it is flowing, there is a stone or big rock or anything, it will get slowed down. Okay, so the speed is broken in between, and again it finds, but it does not stop there. It always makes sure, even if there is something blocking it, and it cannot flow straight, it will find a way and continue. That is showing how persuasive the willpower of the group, that nothing can stop it. Even if there are big stones trying to stop it, it will find a way, or through the side. Will, in the beginning it will flow slowly. You must have seen in these streams, if there is something blocking it, in the beginning it will be a small line flowing. Gradually it will increase, and the whole thing will flow with the equal speed. And draw them all along and flow to join the brimming river. For men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. So this is what I told you. The vigorous brook pulls the pebbles, flower petals and fish along with it as it rushes to join up the large river. So it can signify the friends or relatives that you take along with you till the end of life, what I told you earlier. So it can be the same, the vigorous brook. So in its movement of life, as it goes through life, the journey of life, it takes with him the even man, the friends, the people who join him till the end of his lifespan. So it must be signifying to those people also. Okay, and they come in different characters, like flower petals are very gentle people who are very kind to you. Maybe somebody else who are little rough and tough. Fish, he said it's a very healthy, it was a lusty trout. Okay, with a lot of energy, such people also will join you. So you meet different types of people during your journey in life. Okay? So that is what the poem is also saying. The Brook is like a person who is carrying with him this different types of people, just willing to carry their friendship, their love, their relation till the end of their life. While humankind's time on earth is short and temporary, the brook will continue to live on with no end in sight. So, again, the repetition, the refrain used again to emphasize the single point that man is just a mortal, and the river is just like anything in nature, will withstand time. I steal by lawns and grassy plots. I slide by hazel covers. I move the sweet forget-me-nots that grow for happy lovers. The brook quietly creeps past meadows and fields carpeted with grass and slips through densely planted hazel trees that shade the landscape. Okay, the brook quietly creeps past meadows and fields carpeted with grass and slips. So he's just repeating the same thing in more picturesque terms. He's using a lot of picturization in these descriptions. Okay, creeps past meadows is again, it is flatland, so it is moving. The speed of the movement has reduced. And fields carpeted with grass. So again, it is a flatland, so the speed will naturally be slower than when it was moving down a hill or a mountain. And slips through densely planted hazel trees. So these are trees which are very close to each other, the trees. Even then, it finds a way to pass through these densely planted trees also, even though there is no place for a broad stream to pass by, it finds some passage and reaches the other side of the trees which are planted. The rippling water nudges wild flowers called forget-me-nots that grow along the stream bank. The Brook says these particular wildflowers are meant for people who are blissfully in love. So it's just like the name of that little flower, which is a wildflower. So he's saying as it passes, it even passes these little wildflowers, which are meant for lovers who promise each other not to forget each other. So because of the name, he says lovers must be these flowers are meant for lovers who should not forget each other when they are in love. I slip, I slide, I gloom, I glance. Among my skimming swallows, I make the netted sunbeam dance against my sandy shallows. So a lot of movement and it all slip, slide, gloom, glance. So slip and slide, a lot of energy and movement is shown in this stanza. You can feel a lot of energy in these words. The brook describes how it moves along quietly, sometimes looking dark and murky. So that maybe it is describing the flow at night. That is why gloom and glance, looking dark and murky. Other times the light playfully bounces off the stream, or perhaps the stream bounces off the riverbank. So when it is not dark, it is jumping over the sunlight. All the while, birds called swallows barely brush the water's surface as they search for food. So swallows are again little birds. So among my skimming swallows, as it is moving, even the birds are coming and searching for food in the moving stream or brook. The sunlight shines through the foliage that surrounds the stream, casting a woven pattern on the surface of the water, reflecting on a moving surface. The sunlight looks like it is dancing playfully upon the brook's sandy, shallow water. So, when the brook is covered by big trees, the sunlight has to pass through these big branches. So, it is not directly falling, it is falling through narrow passages in the big branches. So, finally, when it falls on the brook, it is in all net-like shapes, and these net shapes are dancing when the stream is moving. So it is a beautiful image that is trying to show you, describing that it is not a direct sunlight; it is falling through the branches. So when it is falling, it is all in a net type of formation is formed on the top layer of the brook, which again, because of the sunlight, it is shining and dancing, and because of the movement of the stream also, it is making a dance movement. I murmur under moon and stars in brambly wilderness. I linger by my shingly bars. I loiter down my cresses. So I'm again see the rhyming also. It is A B, stars, bars, wilderness, cresses. Okay. So throughout the poem, all the stanzas are rhymed according to that. The water makes low, quiet sounds as it travels during time. Flowing past a forest filled with prickly shrubs, the stream slows its pace when it comes to a sandbank heaped with little pebbles, and spends another unhurried movement swirling around the leafy greens, such as watercress, that grow in the shallow waters of the stream. So I murmur under moon and stars. So now the swift movement of the stream has reduced because it has reached this forest where a lot of shrubs are growing. So it cannot move with the same speed it was moving earlier when it was fields and farms where there was nothing to block it. Now the stream slows its pace. I linger by my shingly bars. Okay. So when it comes to a sandbank, loiter, yes, when there is a bank filled with pebbles, it cannot move as smoothly as it was moving before. So now what it is doing, it is not going to stop there, but the speed has reduced. But like I told you, even if there is a big heap of pebbles or mud or sand, it will flow slowly, but surely it will. His loiter around my creases, whatever plants are there, it will quietly find a way to pass through this also, even though it is not done immediately. Okay? So, so is the 12th, is the last stanza. And out again I curve and flow to join the brimming river. For men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. So once again the brook continues its winding journey to merge with the big river. The Brook reminds listeners that although individual humans are born and die, the brook is eternal. So again it is telling you that the journey is not a smooth, straight journey. There will be bends and curves in the journey while any man travels through life. And finally, after this long journey, it goes and joins the river, which is at the end of the farm of Philip. And again, he is repeating the same line, for men may come and men may go, but I go on forever, to remind us again how temporary the life of man is, but nature will go on forever and ever. So that was the explanation of the poem. So we will discuss the figures of speech and the other literary devices used in the poem in the next class. So okay, so we were discussing the stanzas. Now I can just show you some picturization of some children. Okay. See how they have beautifully illustrated, after reading the poem, how they illustrated the poem through a drawing, which you can also do. Okay, see the brook, the flow of the brook, in the different places it is passing through. The farm, okay, can you see? This little child has also named Philip's farm. So this is an activity you can do. Using all the imagery that the poet has given in the poem, you can also make a drawing like this. What you can picturize with the descriptions that the poet has given in the poem. Okay, this is another poem written by William Wordsworth, Solitary Reaper. So another picturization how the children have done. What is? So I will wind up now. So if you have any doubt regarding this poem till what I've done so far, you can read. You have to read through this poem, and we can explain it further in the next class. So mark out the portion that you have not clearly understood, and I will do the explanation again in the next class. So there are some, with the question answers, we can do it again on another day. There are some questions related to this poem at the end of the lesson. You can try it yourself, or if you have any problem, you can discuss it in the next class. So we will wind up here. Thank you, and enjoy reading the poem.